Hey everybody, Jonathan Broadbent here, your host of UnWoke.Academy. We do actually have a countdown timer with some cool, enticing music, but I learned a couple of weeks ago that we can't actually use the countdown timer because somehow that throws a glitch into Facebook. We are live right now on 4 different platforms. Speaking of which, if you're watching this on one of the platforms, live in real time, and I apologize, it's a little later in the day than I normally like to do a live. But if you are watching this live, like this, share it out to your network, and let's see if we can get some people in for this conversation. Today, we're going to talk about safe and effective, but not in the way that you're thinking. I'm going to reuse that horrible, frightening term, safe and effective. Didn't it used to be there was a time when safe and effective meant something good, or at least implied something good? Um, but I'm just sort of pausing a little bit here because it looks like some of this is still populating. One, two, three, four. Good. So I think that we are now live and streaming on multiple different platforms. As I said, please do like and share this, get this message out to your network. This is UnWoke.Academy, where freedom economy meets follow the money. If you're at all curious about some of the woke companies out there and why they're doing what they're doing, and perhaps more importantly, and more to the point, the impact that has on your life and your financial life, follow UnWoke.Academy. We uncover all sorts of stuff by way of example. If you remember that period of time where there were companies pulling their ad revenue from the social media platform X, now X used to be Twitter, we actually tracked those companies that tried to pull their ad revenue. Most of them did. There were 50, was it 50 or 51 companies? And we did a little research and due diligence into the ownership of those companies and the institutional owners, which means things like mutual funds. We uncovered all of that and helped some people decide to pull their funding, because wouldn't that be awesome if we, the people, flipped the script and instead of allowing these big mega corporations to push around platforms like X, if we pull our money and send a message to them? Wouldn't that be cool? But today, I want to talk a little bit about during COVID. You remember back in the COVID era? Just trust me, this is going in in a direction that I think you probably don't anticipate. But during COVID, there was a lot of talk from these quasi doctors and politicians about safe and effective. Everyone was to go out and do this shot, or 6 or 7 or whatever they got up to after the boosters and all of that stuff. But there was this mantra of safe and effective. Suddenly, that term showed up virtually everywhere. Everyone was saying it. I mean, you could walk in the grocery store aisles, and the little piped in muzak that came into the grocery store would occasionally interrupt with, the specials of the week or whatever, and say, stay safe, be safe. And people picked up on that, and it was crazy. It was like once you saw it, you became very aware of it, or at least I did. It was like everyone all of a sudden overnight was saying the term safe and effective, and it became almost like people use aloha in Hawaii as hello and goodbye. It was like people would greet. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but I'm also kind of serious. People were like parroting this expression, safe and effective. Well, I work in finance, and of course, parallel to and in very similar fashion to mainstream media, there is financial media. Financial media is something that I pay a lot of attention to. I spend a lot of time reading emails and reports and joining webinars and listening to sort of the pundits of all kinds of different financial firms. And I don't know that I saw it as clearly prior to COVID. That's a mouthful. I don't know if I saw it as clearly prior to COVID, but I certainly see it now. There is commonality in the messaging. So And it actually is to the point it's kind of driving me a little bit crazy. It almost feels like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. When I open up emails, I listen to live streams, I go on to seminars, and overwhelmingly, I hear the same whatever it is, whatever's happening, the whatever the issue du jour, the trade deficit, or we've got volatility in the market or whatever. I'm not kidding you. The messaging is unbelievably consistent across platforms, showing to me a great deal of collaboration. Well, I want to take that one step further. I mentioned that I own a financial services firm. I work in finance, not in the way that you probably anticipate. I do a certain type of finance that has to do with the running of retirement plans, the administration of them. So, by the way, if you work in that arena, if you're like a certified employee benefit specialist, or that type of person who work in HR, CFO, etc., follow some of the episodes that I've done. I did a deep dive into 401k plans and how they're administered. There's some useful information in those episodes that you'll like. It was a 3-part series. Go back and watch those. Um, but more to the point, and the point that I want to make today is working in finance and owning a firm that does certain financial services. There are a lot of companies out there that send me information and try and pitch me on stuff. And one of the big ones is messaging, like e-communications or those instant texts that pop up. And years and years ago, I actually did subscribe to one. It was actually pretty good. It allowed me to add my brand to it, and they would kind of give a market recap and all those sorts of things. And it helps my firm to get, and firms like mine, to get the message out and just sort of stay front of mind for people. It's a good kind of branding, marketing sort of tool. Lots of financial firms use it. And they're like an e-newsletter, and maybe you put it up on the website and it says, "Hey, don't miss out on this week's issue," and there'll be sort of bullet pointed topics, etc. Well, there are lots of firms out there that offer that to financial firms. And once I started seeing that whole repeating mantra of whatever the topic of the week is, I can't help but notice that of all the different firms out there that offer newsletters to financial firms, they're nearly identical. So here's what that looks like. And I'm telling you, from my vantage, it is maddening and disconcerting, and shows the power of top-down brand and or branding and messaging. What I'm seeing, and now I can't unsee it, is tuning into financial news, broadcast financial news, reading financial publications, going to seminars and webinars, reading emails, and going to the platforms of different financial service providers to me, and then looking at the stuff I don't actually use. I haven't used one in years. Those companies that advertise to me and prepare communications to clients, it's the same. It's the same stuff. It's almost like Safe and Effective. It's almost like there's an overarching umbrella organization that decides on a week by week basis, and sometimes day to day, what message to put out to the public. Well, what in the heck? How is that even reasonable? Because we we absolutely must insist on a marketplace of free ideas. We must insist that if you're working with fill in the blank mutual fund company, or you're working with a broker to build a stock portfolio or something, that somebody out there has some independent free thought and thinks something different than whatever the narrative is It's a must. But the crazy thing is, even when I'm looking for it, I can't find it. I can't find the people out there or the entities or the organizations, the financial firms or the money managers or the banks that are saying anything different. Those that do, like me, we end up in the crosshairs. There are very few. A few of them have websites. One I know had a website up for a while, and then they've all but disappeared. I can't figure out how to contact them again. And I know that when they show up and say, "Hey, wait, hold on a minute here, hold on, time out, let's talk about this," that suddenly it seems like people come from all over, these three-letter agencies in particular, and start attacking them. Well, that's not okay, because we don't need more parade of woke sameness. By the way, if you didn't watch that episode, go back and watch it. Allowing ourselves to fall into this rut and looking at ourselves like sheep or acting like sheeple. I recently learned of that expression. I think it's funny. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't use it. I don't mean it to offend you, but hopefully it wakes people up to the concept that we should not be herded around and all told that we need to go the same place and do the same thing. That collectivist, everybody do the same thing unquestioningly, it's not okay, and it shouldn't be okay with anybody in any context. It certainly, and I'm hoping you're with me on this, it certainly was not okay now that we're seeing the fallout from so many people having gone out and gotten the jab. If you're among them and regret it, I feel very sorry that circumstance has hit you, and I wish you well. I hope that you're truly healthy. Um, but allowing ourselves as a society to fall into the trap of everybody following whatever order comes from on high, financial, health, or otherwise, is unhealthy. And we should not be doing that. Ask questions. And ultimately, kind of, well, just like the jab, it comes down to you. That is why I do these episodes. That's why I talk frequently in these live streams. By the way, if you have any questions, feel free to post them on whichever platform you're viewing this on. If you're watching it during the live, I'll get the question. I will include it or make my best effort to answer your questions. But the reason that I do this and the reason that I encourage you the way that I do is I'm hoping that you'll go to whoever it is you work with, your advisors, and ask questions and tell people around you they need to be asking questions. In my book, this conversation and UnWoke.Academy, I've literally, since the day that I launched UnWoke, it originally launched as UnWoke Investing, I've referenced Dr. Simone Gold and America's Frontline Doctors as a model for what I do. They, years ago, when COVID first hit and everybody started saying, don't look at any alternative, don't consider your own immune system, but just go and get the jab. I liked the fact that there were doctors who said, wait, hold on, time out. Let's talk about this, and started trying to use critical thinking and common sense to know that that couldn't be a one size fits all and everybody needed to have 7 or 10 jabs or whatever. It's not in the realm of possibility. So they were asking questions. And they were telling everyone who would listen to go and ask questions of your doctor. I'm doing the same thing in finance. I'm telling you, go and ask questions of your financial team, whoever it is, whatever it looks like. And I've actually given you, we have a leg up. It was really difficult when the jabs were rolling out to figure out what was actually in them. It's not difficult for you to figure out what's in your portfolio. I've done episodes where I show you for free how to go onto websites like morningstar.com and figure out what the actual underlying investments are. And if you have watched that Parade of Woke Sameness episode that I did, you'll see that The overwhelming majority of most major mutual funds have fallen in. They're a rut. They are a rut for you. Hopefully you haven't fallen into it. If you have, get out of it, because that is directly connected to the episode that I did called The Globalist Bubble. In the globalist bubble, I show that there are very few companies that have captured virtually all the money, and they're drastically overvalued. In my book, they are preposterously overvalued. That's not where anybody should be invested. So when you see and hear that message, here's what I want to leave you with. It just occurred to me. If you hear a message repeated over and over again, like somebody's trying to drill it into your head, be leery, be very cautious. Just like safe and effective was repeated over and over and over again for those jabs to try and convince people everything's a-okay, don't look. In a very similar way, financial gurus are constantly beating the same drum in the same way with the same message over and over again, telling everybody that it's okay to be in that rut. No, I'm here to say no, it's not. You, my audience, we the people, it's up to us to challenge that and ask questions. Sure, it can be uncomfortable. It was probably very uncomfortable for the people who asked the questions of their doctors years ago when the COVID shot was happening. But kudos to those people that did find the courage to go and ask questions. And many of them said, no, I won't do that thing. It looks to me like maybe you're doing that purely for profit, not for my health. Apply that same lens. I'm imploring you. Use that exact same lens to defend yourself and ask questions of the people in your financial life, your bank or broker or financial planner, whoever it is. Go and ask them. And as I said, I've put you in the driver's seat with information about how to lift the hood and figure out what's actually inside of things like your 401k, mutual funds, etc. It's pretty easy. With today's web, it's awesomely easy. There are free resources out there for you to tap into, like I mentioned, morningstar.com, where you can go and find out. But don't listen to the narrative. That concludes today's message. I'm not seeing any questions coming in, but if some question does occur to you, or let's say you're uncomfortable about asking it in a public sort of a way, by the way, I would not disclose your personal information beyond maybe whatever your screen name is. But if a question does occur to you, or if you're listening to this in a replay, feel free to email me at info@unwokeinvesting.com. I will work hard to get your questions answered. Ultimately, the mission is for us to defund the woke. Let's get our money out of the hands of the woke, overcapitalized, overfunded, inflated stock prices, and into great companies that you can be proud to own in your portfolio. See also the America First investment policy issued by Donald Trump on February 21st. That's another important document. I've done a series of episodes on that. Should be able to find that easily. Go back a couple of episodes on UnWoke.Academy. You'll hear me talk about it pretty regularly. With that said, I wish everybody a terrific Memorial Day weekend. Happy Memorial Day weekend, and God bless.